And what I want to explore is what type of thing do we need to do? How do we create this perspective shift, this change in approach to the game, specifically from the top players? Because I think the thing I really want to repeat from what you said there was, if the top players don't care, then no one's going to care. This is something that I really strongly believe. I think one of the worst things that can happen is if the top players don't care or don't give a shit, then everyone else is like, well, these guys don't care, so why should I, right? I think the really big thing was the monthly selling, right? When we don't need to get into that too much, but a lot of top players, right, were literally selling the monthly automated tournament to people by playing on alt accounts for real money, right? And if that's happening, it's like, well, I mean, they're just not taking it seriously. They have zero respect for the game, right? Like, so why would anyone else possibly have any respect for the game at that point? And how do we change that? Like, what do we do? Like, what do we need to, like, permaban these people? just reset everyone. We need a great reset. Get rid of every single person above Plat 3. Like, what could we offer or organize that would create the system where people would care? Is it stuff like a monthly tournament external to the game with, like loads of people watching, so there's like a big ego boost from winning it, right? With the ArenaNet title, we can shower people in gold, right? We can do this, we can do that. Like, what is going to be that hook to create this, like, this respect for the game and the integrity of the game? Hello, everyone. We are now live. We're done stalling. As usual, we did the entire show before the show, but here we are. We're here to talk about PvP. I first mentioned wanting to do a podcast like this, a tea time like this. I think a month ago. Then I just consistently forgot to ask every single week until now. So here we are, and of course we have the illustrious, legendary players, Lord Helseth and Rom, to discuss a lot of things about PvP. The PvP scene in Guild Wars 2 is. It's in an interesting spot right now, particularly with all of the happenings going on and coming up to the expansion End of Dragons right now. But anyway, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here. And let's just go ahead and leap right into it. So PvP has been fairly stagnant for a while, and I think it will be fair to say that there has been a decline in the population, a decline in the popularity of the game mode, and a certain souring of the general player base's opinion of player versus player and the game mode in general. Now, there are a number of factors there, but I'll have my thoughts on that, and I'm sure people in the chat will as well. But I kind of want to open the floor there. What, in your opinion, are the things that have kind of got us to where we are now with regards to the slightly subsidence and decline and decay of the PvP scene in Guild Wars 2?
I'm just gonna open by saying what's up, chat. All good? All good? I feel like I gotta say hi to them. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen these many viewers for years. Like I'm part of a big stream. Jesus Christ, it feels amazing. Look at the chat; it's actually moving. I can't even see that I'm never mind. And I'll just go ahead and open up and talk immediately, and then I'll pass it over to Rom. I find it interesting, the wordings of saying like decaying and such, because I feel like when I got back into the game, it's I came back during the little hype of. I remember you doing your tournament, the big tournament. What was it called? Masters of the Arena.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I remember logging into Guild Wars. Right, I hadn't touched Guild Wars for forever at that time. I think I was playing Battle Rat or something like that. And when I opened my friends list, it was stacked. Right, people I hadn't seen in forever. People that I really liked, people that I didn't necessarily even like, but I saw a ton of people that were like in like Forts of Nifl screaming at each other and practicing. I saw people on the ladder and I recognized almost everyone. I went into a ranked game and I recognized pretty much everyone. And I was like, people are really excited about the game. That's what made me want to play, because I was like, well, things are getting really exciting here. Rob disappeared, by the way.
Yeah, he's gone.
And I think that was a concept of PvP is going somewhere. Something's happening. There are things happening now. And then it was like more things happened during that time. We had like I believe World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, one of the games were like struggling. A bunch of streamers came here. We had like people like PS Hero and such. that gave a ton of excitement to the game. Like not only viewership, but more players and more people being interested in PvP. Like I'd stream and I'd get like a tenth of what you have right now, and it was like nonsense. I was like, how do I have this many viewers? And I feel like right now, in the current state of Guild Wars, it has rather shifted from instead of things happening right now to things maybe possibly being exciting in the expansion, hopefully. And that works right before the expansion. It works during the expansion, but it doesn't necessarily work when there's 6 months of waiting for the expansion, which there's been for a really long time now. We haven't really had any, anything that keeps us in it. The last major event was something you were doing. And I guess that's the reason why the game has stagnated a little bit is because we just don't have any catalyst right now. And a lack of a catalyst doesn't bring in new players, and that doesn't really excite content creators. You're a machine, right? You're streaming endlessly, but a lot of people would be streaming a lot more if they felt they were streaming towards something. Which I guess you are. I mean, you're trying to build a scene and you're trying to like establish things, which is why it's very easy, which is why you're so motivated and good at what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I totally.
But I'm not part of that. I'm not part of that, right? I'm just streaming ranked every now and then, and I don't feel like I'm streaming ranked towards something. So that can't really motivate me.
Yeah. And it's a super interesting point there, actually. And in some respect, I can't help but feel a little bit of responsibility in that regard, because I haven't been able to do as many events as I would want, and not all of my plans have kind of come through for PvP. It is a bit of an interesting one, though, because I almost felt there is a certain level of diminishing returns with this and a little bit of novelty. Like when Master of the Arena was there, it was actually massive, right? Everyone was going crazy, like as you say. But after that, then we did another tournament, and that actually went really well. Like the first kind of like open tournament where it wasn't just the really, really top teams playing. It was more of an open thing with 2 brackets, right? The open bracket, the invitational bracket. That went really well. We had like 50 teams, but then we did it again like 3 months later, and it was significantly less. It's significantly less people. Like half the teams actually ended up signing up. So I think it's really hard to kind of keep people engaged for a long period of time, right? And to continue that level of hype, to keep almost like one-upping yourself to get people engaged again. I'm not really sure how to get around that as well. I think that might be partially because the game didn't change that much. Like that would be a really big concern that I have, is that we've been on the same PvP meta for, honestly, it hasn't really changed that much since Master of the Arena. Like the only thing that really changed is that you started playing like 3 Scourges in every single team for like a few months until CMC nerfed that. Now we're just back to playing Rev, Rev, NG, and Core Necro now. Not that much better to be, well, it's a lot better than Scourges to be fair, but still, it hasn't really adjusted that much. So I think that unless the game changes in some way with some kind of regular balance, I do think that holds the momentum back. You can send out the spark, right? You can get something going and get people engaged, but to keep them engaged, I think to an extent the game does actually have to change, right? In the same way that if you want to keep like a raid scene alive in PvE, you're going to need to add a new raid, right? You got to add some content. But for PvP, the content is the game itself actually morphing, right? Whether that's going to be a tournament coming into the game, or if it's going to be, a new build, or, people constantly theory crafting to come up with a new strategy. Whereas right now it's, people are just doing the same thing, right? Like there's a certain element of just going through the motions. I guess we'll run, it's going to be another, Necro Fiesta game. I guess we're going to run it down mid and just fight 5v5 all game. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? And that never seems to change. But yeah, I want to bring Rom in there. Welcome back, by the way, after the brief DDoS. But yes, what do you make of this?
I agree with what Helseth said and what you said now, and it's an interesting position to keep that hype rolling. It's not easy. I've also tried previously, and it's an incredibly hard thing, and it's literally an art how to hype people about something and keep that rolling. And I was trying to think now while you were talking about the differences between a kind of stagnant game like Guild Wars, or rather it's like a veteran game. It's hard for new players to get in there. With a game like just the mobile game Wild Rift that I've been playing a little bit. And the way like Riot is in-game UI pumping out material for the player, it just makes it kind of like, it feels rewardy. It feels, a new player will feel like, oh my God, there's cool things everywhere. And here I can do this and here I can do that. When I hop back into Guild Wars Heart of the Mist, it's the same as 3 years ago. It's almost the same as 6 years ago. It's just a different Heart of the Mist now. We see some mounts running around, but I think that we need like your most played build 2021, it pops up in December, or stuff, small detail, UI details that kind of keep you interacted as a player and feel like it's cool, your last game you did this and that. Don't have this top player damage, top player thing. You need to have like more of a flashy thing, and I don't know, it's a vibe. I want more of a lobby idea. I want more of all these PvP things that we lack. That's at least my vibe. At least when I enter PvP, it's no like, we're in PvP, man. That's a personal view.
It's too calm. It needs to be more exciting. The lobby needs to be entertaining. It needs a bit more energy.
Yeah, easier to spectate games. Not just like, okay, we have partners who can spectate the games, but it should be like an open spectator idea as well. Who is currently in the finals in the 80? If you're in Heart of the Mist, watch the finals. Click here. Watch the finals. Small details like this that would actually engage a new player to understand that there is an 80 going on, to understand what kind of meta builds are going around. Somehow integrate this into the Heart of the Mist.
It's always interesting discussing Guild Wars because there's like the talking about what we would want to have, and then talking about what would be even remotely theoretically possible. A good example of this is like talking about everyone would want to be able to see ATs. Right? I'm not a partner right now, so I can't watch ATs. So I'll just sneak into Teapot's stream. And the thing is, that's something that everyone says should happen, but we all know it's not gonna happen. And I remember, I don't know, there's no NDA to it. So I remember being a part of the Balance Discord, and I couldn't take it. I had to leave the Balance Discord because every single time I was in it, people were talking about things that would literally never happen, ever. They were like, we should have a patch every month to excite this. We should rework everything. Here's a list of all the traits and skills that are useless. We should change them this way. And this skill should be reworked in this way. And I'm like, why am I talking about this? Why am I talking to these people about this? While we're at it, I want a mansion. Like, can we talk about that? And that's why when we go back to this, we talk about like UI updates. I mean, if we're asking about a UI update, it would happen somewhere in the lines of 2080, somewhere around there, and it would be a UI font change, and that would be it. So it's like, I feel like in terms of the context of Guild Wars 2 getting more exciting and it being possible, there might be a dog waffling every now and then, just warning you. In the context of that, I feel like the gameplay needs to change, similar to what Teapot said, because the game has been very stagnant. And I'm comparing it to a game that I've been playing on and off, casually, not even seriously at all, but it's Hardstuck Battlegrounds. And that's a game that's like, it's an auto-battler, and I'll play it and I'll enjoy it, and then I'll get sick of it. Like, I recently played with Misha quite a bit in it, right? And now we've stopped, because it's been the same metagame for a while. But what's going to happen right now is that they're changing they're adding like a completely different mechanic to it. They're adding new heroes to it. So the game isn't stagnant because there's something happening. And I feel like a lot of times when people talk about balance, they're talking in the context of like the game isn't working. It's bad in terms of balance. And frankly, the balance itself in Guild Wars 2, with a few outliers, it's not that bad. You can win a tournament with almost pretty much every single class. You can get to top ranks in ladder, ignore the top 10 or top 5, you can get to high rating, regardless of what class you play. And you have multiple builds of what you can play. However, the flow and the state of the game, it's the same. It's similar to what Hearthstone is to me right now. It's the same. There's nothing new happening in it. And if you compare it to other games, you have League of Legends, you have Dota, you have all these games, they continuously release new heroes. Never mind the balance. The balance, it's not like that the balance is bad. It's just that there's stuff happening. There's new content to it, and the game is evolving. While here, the biggest change we get is basically, here's a flavor of the month build. It gets replaced by a different flavor of the month build that already existed before. But it's not a new build. Like, Necro has been Necro forever. DP Thief has been DP Thief for forever. Support Guard has been Support Guard for forever. And you change these builds. Like, you'll have Support Guard the way it is now. You'll have Shout Bow the way it is now. But, this is hardly a change. You would need a dramatical change, in my opinion, of how the game is played. Not just in terms of the build, but actually the flow of the game. And to do that, someone just needs to go YOLO on the changes. They'll just need, like, Portal has a 90-second cooldown. Let's try giving it a 0-second cooldown. Just see what happens. And the problem with doing that is that you need to do the patches more frequently, which is where we go back to the discussion: are we discussing things or are we in fairyland?
Yeah, that's that's the really key point there. I think balance is good, and people always do say this. This is I think that's something I really want to hammer. Actually, people say Guild Wars 2 is so unbalanced. Well, not really. But the key is that balance isn't everything. Right? Like if everything is exactly the same, you have just created the most boring game ever, right? That, oh, wow, everything's the same. How exciting. No, the key is just keeping things moving, right? And adding new things to that game. And I think, League is a really good example of that, right? Because they always just shake it up. They're like, you know what? This is the flavor of the month champion, right? Okay, that one's really OP this time. But it's okay and it doesn't matter because everyone knows that, oh yeah, it's going to be fixed pretty soon, right? I think that one of the reasons why Necro feels very oppressive right now, and arguably stuff like DP Thief, Shadow Arts in particular, right? And Scourge back in the day, right? When Scourge and Renegade were really insane, was because it was like, we're actually stuck like this. Oh my God, right? We have to play Scourge for the next 6 monthly ATs. Nice. We're going to have a great time just standing on the node, mashing all of our shade skills and just enjoying life. That's, I think, what really makes the game feel bad and demotivates players because they know that there's I don't want to be too much of a doomer here on the PvP tea time. People are like, there's no hope, right? There's no light at the end of the tunnel. We're just screwed. We're going to have to deal with this for a really long time. And you don't even know. That's the thing. Like, you have no idea when things are going to get fixed. It's very unpredictable with the way these patches happen, right? I mean, it's been a very long time since the last one. We don't really know when these things are happening. If you're in the know a little bit, right? If you are in some of these discords that don't exist, then you might have a little bit of an idea of what might be happening. But again, it's from an outside perspective and a player kind of just playing ranked and queuing into 2 Necros every single game. It's like, oh, fuck. This is not an enjoyable experience, right? This isn't good for sure. Change is very, very important in terms of the way the game plays out and also the flow there as well, for sure.
And that's why the expansion will be a catalyst, because that's going to be a massive change. And not only when the expansion comes out, there's going to be quicker patches immediately at that point. There's going to be some things that are really standing out. Right now, something that people don't really realize, at least when I look at Twitch chat and such, and even sometimes I catch myself thinking about it, I get so tilted about, well, this could have just been fixed whenever. But there's certain levels of teams that are just working the expansion right now. They're working on the clock all the time, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot more manpower freed up for additional efforts when the expansion comes. And then the question is, how quickly are the patches? We don't know, right? But in terms of the game continuously getting exciting, I believe that's something that is more or less mandatory, is that there's changes more often and that they also matter more. A lot of people think that the February patch is you're saying it's this doom sword at this point. I think that patch was good. People are I'm going to get a hate mail from Naro saying that. But I generally think the massive February patch was good when they reduced damage on CCs and all that stuff. The problem is that they didn't follow up.
Exactly.
If that was one patch and it continuously came in levels like that, I think the game was... That's also why I came back, because I was super excited about it. I was like, oh, look at this. They're going to rework the... Wait, it's been 6 months. When's the next patch?
Yeah. Absolutely right. And this is... I think this is End of Dragons in a nutshell. Right, what ArenaNet is saying is good, right? That, oh yeah, we've got a dedicated team looking at balance, right? They've already said this, that's going to happen on paper, right? I think the real key in rebuilding the PvP scene, but more importantly, rebuilding the player base's confidence in ArenaNet's commitment to maintaining this game mode is going to be delivering. Right? It's super hard to talk about this stuff now because I can say, oh yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. Everyone in the chat's going to say, well, yeah, Teapot, I've heard that one before, buddy. Remember when they said they were going to do this 2 years ago? Yeah, I remember that. So it's super hard to give people hope right now because I think people are almost trained to be pre-disappointed for something not happening. So there's a lot of pressure on ArenaNet, in my opinion. Yeah, look at these copiums there. There's a huge amount of pressure on ArenaNet to really deliver. I think the next... For PvP particularly, and as you say, right, the catalyst will be the expansion. The follow-up is how you maintain that and build that. A huge amount of pressure on hitting that because otherwise it's just going to fizzle, right? They really need to rebuild that trust and get a good, consistent flow of development and improvement to game modes like PvP, World versus World 2, and even the endgame PvE stuff. Like all of these things, yeah, you can give them a big spark of hope, but then you've got to follow it up. And I think, funnily enough, I think ArenaNet has always struggled with that across the board. That's their greatest weakness, right? Is they have like, whoa, we did something really cool, and you just don't hear about it for another year, right? Oh yeah, that, yeah, it was good, right? We'll do that again. Don't worry, like we'll get to you. Like we'll be there pretty soon.
What happened to the Steam release? Guild Wars for free, play for free Steam.
Well, I mean, you can play for free now. The Steam release is simply is launching on another marketplace, right? Like to buy it. I think that they haven't really mentioned anything about it. I think it's still going ahead. There's no reason to assume that it isn't. But I think it's going to be, well, I mean, it's going to be post-expansion at this point, obviously, right? Because there's just simply not much time left. But we don't really know a date. I'd imagine they'd probably want to kind of patch up the game a little bit and kind of have a bit of a flow after the expansion. Maybe get a few balance patches out there. World vs. World Alliances. I think DX11 is a big one. I don't think we'll see Steam before DirectX 11. The performance upgrade is kind of complete and fully integrated into the game. But I think it is on its way.
That could be a big hit.
I think so too.
It could definitely be a huge hit. And I agree with you. It's probably smarter to actually fine-tune End of Dragons before, get the DX11 and all of that before. Hopefully they managed to get it on Steam before the end of 2022, Like they need to do it on a hype train.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Savior.
I think games are all about momentum, right? That's, popular video games. You have to, you can't just do one really, really good thing and expect that to work. You have to build up and snowball the game, I do think Guild Wars has the potential to do that. I'm going to just briefly slip that in there before everyone just completely bullies me for saying that. I think a lot of people play the game. If you look at stuff like Open World, where a lot of the players are just running around, there's a lot of people playing this game. Like Guild Wars 2, it has the capacity to kind of build that momentum, particularly with like a big thing like the Steam release. I think a lot of people will be interested and will try the game. And kind of on that note, actually, to kind of segue into the new player thing, because this is one of the really big topics that I wanted to bring up here. I do think that there are PvP for a new player is super hard to get into. And it's a really complicated issue here because I think it's really important to kind of mention what Helseth said, which was that it's not really much point talking about unrealistic things. We could always say, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was an amazing tutorial? Oh, I mean, it would be so good. You could walk through all of the things. It could tell you how to rotate, tell you what all your buttons do. I mean, wow, incredible. You could have the perfect recommended builds. Like, oh, it's straight from the meta websites, right? Like, bam, like zap it into the new player's brain. But that's just not going to happen, right? That's unrealistic. So I guess the question is what is going wrong here, and how can we actually fix it? Because I do think that the new player stuff is very, very tricky to handle. I think factors like the population being low is a huge issue. If you watch any PvP streamer, right, you will see top players queuing into relatively newer players. Kind of, you can have someone like Sind queue into someone from Gold, right? That is quite problematic for a new player. But even on a less extreme example, right, you're going to regularly have a lot of players of a very wide skill range just in the same game as each other. There are going to be 36 potential builds you could be looking at with Ender Dragons. That's a lot, right? Because there's a huge amount of skills in the game. And of course, you have stuff like League of Legends where you have a lot of champions and a lot of characters to learn. But in Guild Wars 2, I would argue it's a little more complicated than that. There's, these classes, have a lot of buttons to press, a lot of things, and even variants of these different builds that can be played. There's so much to absorb as a new player, and you combine that with a slight, visual clarity or inclarity rather of the game, and it is a serious proposition. Like, what can we possibly do about this? Like, what could ArenaNet do? What can we as the community do here to assist this problem?
What you just said is, rather than that sentence, there's the answer, which is what can ArenaNet do? What can the community do? And then you look at that, you take them one by one. What will ArenaNet do about the new player experience in PvP, provided that we get a population increase? Let's pretend we get a massive population increase. What will ArenaNet do to radically change that new player experience? And the answer to that is nothing. And I'm not saying it's a doomer way. Maybe there will be like some improvements where they'll post blog posts and all that stuff, but what is the actual realistic thing that they will do to completely overhaul the new player experience? The answer is nothing. However, that is not really a problem. Like, if you look at the chess boom that happened, where chess just blew up, right? The reason why chess blew up is because of content creators. Only because of content creators. Because when chess blew up, there were people like Hikaru Nakamura, who was streaming endlessly. He's always been streaming. He's streaming right now. But a grandmaster who can do all sorts of flashy things, like be blindfolded and play in speed run and play garbage openings and still beat everyone while still interacting with chat and all that stuff. I believe that you are already a testament to what is possible, which is that take Teapot away from this last year and look at the viewership of Guild Wars 2. What would it actually be in PvP? And the answer is pretty much nothing, right? So, and I think about the times when I've played previously, both when I was more or less carrying the Twitch scene or when there were multiple Twitch personas out there dealing with it. You needed a lot of people that were excited about the game, that were like continuously creating content and interacting with the community. The community finds somewhere to attach to, like an interest to get that knowledge. And also, not just that, and I believe this is more important, is that on the ladder, you'll have people like Teapot right now streaming, and then you'll have people like me, and you'll have people like Boyce, and you'll have people like, all these people streaming. Notice that I put me above Boyce, very important. But you'll have all these people streaming, and it leads to a bunch of content. And it doesn't stop here, because down here, there might be someone with 10 viewers, but he's gold, and he's interacting with people below his level and getting those people interested, and it continues from there. And what we need right now is basically, assuming that there's a boon. That's why I came back. When I saw that the game was popping, I was like, this is exciting. I want to be a part of it. I'm going to go ahead and make content and get excited. Practice Mirage a bunch and got into it. And then my motivation and my enthusiasm fell apart because I was like, it's not going anywhere, so I'm going to chill. And there's too many people that feel like I did there. Especially now. We wanted to get Naro here, who's a great content creator, good player and all that stuff. We couldn't get him here, right? We need people to create content to get the people involved. And then we need everyone like in the population to care and want to improve. And the problem right now is similar to what you said. It's like I played a game of Ranked right before we did this podcast. I had a Guardian who tried to res his ally, and I immediately stopped his ally. So he just begins his Signal of Mercy cast. And even though he starts the Signal of Mercy cast right after I stomp, he doesn't stow it. So most likely he doesn't have stow weapon bound even. And there's no one to teach him that, right? He might just get flamed and lose interest. So basically when we get the catalyst of EOD and all that stuff, man, like I remember, I'm just going to name drop randomly. Jebro, on his YouTube, you can still find a bunch of build guides and all that stuff. Like there's going to be so much interest in builds, in classes, in playstyles, in how do I do this? How do I play on this map? All this stuff needs to actually be covered. And I believe it needs to be covered for more than one person. Because if I remember correctly, when the WoW boon happened, I believe, maybe I'm misremembering, but didn't you make like a massive guide? Or was this when Soda Poppin' came? I remember someone making like a 6-hour video explaining PvP.
Oh, yeah. Wait. I mean, do you mean when Fantram played with Soda back in the day, like a very long time ago?
Yeah, but that was super long ago. I'm trying to remember when you made this new player guide in PvP.
Oh, yeah. I made like a combat system guide, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That was with Summit. Yeah, when Summit joined.
With Summit. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. Yeah. And we need more people to basically do that, and we need more people to be on the forefront of that. I mean, and if that happens, that's how you get the game involved. Because there's so many games. Sorry, I'm ranting forever, but there's so many games. Chess, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2. There's so many games where it's daunting to be a new player, but they still get involved. And they get involved because of the top end. The top end existed artificially forever in Guild Wars 2, and that's why I believe the scene continuously leveled up, because there's a bunch of content creators that are basically being paid to play the game, i.e. World Tournament Series and all that stuff. Now that they don't really, I mean, the top scene doesn't create content the same way as they did in the esports days.
Say that to Teapot.
No, but I make it very clear that Teapot is the exception, because if Teapot wasn't here, this game, I mean, come on, like I don't even need to say.
Fully agree. Fully agree.
But the thing is, while Teapot's work ethic and what he does is insane, he's one person. And there could be more people that do the same thing as him right now. Like I see Nerianexe in chat doing a frog. Why aren't you streaming right now? Why aren't you doing your best for Guild? Why are you so selfish? It's crazy. I'm disappointed in you. Someone should ban that person. But I believe that's how you fix the new player experience. You get people involved to bring the game up. And everyone needs to be on board to do that. And how you do that, well, I believe that the easy fix for that is that you should, when things get more exciting, if they get more exciting at some point, I believe that when the WoW boon happened, we really should have had a talk. Like everyone should have had a talk. Okay, this is the opportunity in Guild Wars 2 right now. What should we do to make sure that when PS Hero plays, that he doesn't rage? Because PS Hero played 20-hour streams consecutively over and over and over and over again. How did we not somehow make value of that chat? Because not only did he play, he had a ton of people playing along with him. They leaked into other streamers. We should have been more on the ball to do something with that. ArenaNet's not going to do it. And the people here want to do it, so they should do it. Specifically, that guy called out on Twitch. He's gone out, but
yeah. I think that's that is something that I always try to encourage people to do, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that in particular the content creation scene, the top players, right? It would be really good if more of the top players streamed, right? And I think on that, I think to actually energize a lot of the top scene, the scene actually has to be competitive. I feel like there's a bit of an issue around that right now. Is that a lot of the top players, how do I put this? Like, they don't exactly play the game seriously. They win and they obviously try hard, but it's not the same, right? Like Zan probably isn't like queuing ranked every day, right? Or like playing a daily automated tournament every day, right? He's like, oh, it's the monthly. I'm going to log on and force my team to play with me, and we're going to, real quick just win the monthly. Like Draza, he was going for qualifying points like 2 days, right, before the monthly, as far as I'm aware. So the only tournaments I saw him in was like a few days before the actual event. He was just, like trolling with like double chrono with Kazas, right, in some some crazy builds, right, to get enough qualifying points to even play the monthly. So it's a little bit different. There needs to be something that almost, in a way, forces these players to keep playing. I think that's where you do need something like Master of the Arena, right? Or well, obviously I would say that, but you need something like that really gets people actually actively engaged and practicing a lot. But it's super hard to do when the scene is kind of this size and of this scale. Because if you look at the monthly results on EU right now, and this was the case on NA with Team USA, when Team USA was super, super dominant, right? And they're a little more relaxed now, but the same thing has now happened on EU, where you have this ultra team, you have the super team, and it's just farming everyone. There's almost like not a lot of motivation for them to kind of try hard and like do a lot of streaming or creating content in a way, because they don't need to, right? They're just going to win anyway. And in a way, the more practice they give to other people, it just helps other people. Doesn't really help them that much, right? If they did a bunch of scrims and, they showed off their gameplay on stream, in a way, all that means is it increases the chance they're going to lose because people will just watch them and try and copy them in some way. So it's a very difficult situation with the way the scene is right now. I think that's a lot of this comes down to population and diversity of skill range, right? Like the way I see it right now is that you have a lot of people who are pretty new and are a little bit lost in the game. You don't really have people moving up very often, and you have a small group of players that have a huge amount of experience, understanding of conquest, incredible mechanical skill, right, to the point where they can smash, right? And it's a super interesting thing about Guild Wars 2. Like, in some respects, it is too skill based, right? There is a huge difference even between a legend player, like a legend rated player, and an actual top player. Those are not the same thing, like not even close to the same thing. And when you have a very small scene, I think it becomes very oppressive to players who are trying to improve and trying to make that journey. Because again, the resources aren't there really, and there's no motivation for them to be there to an extent. And it's a bit like kind of bashing your head. If you want to get as good as the top players, you're going to have to lose a lot, right? There's going to have to be like months and months and months of losing before you can really approach that level, which I think is difficult. It's very, very daunting for new players, I think.
And I mean, there's like, but for some people, there's going to be like 10-ish years of experience. And I guess the problem is, again, just with population where I'm extremely serious about my chess play right now, right? Like I'm practicing literally every day and all that stuff. I'm literally never, ever, 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 ever going to be relevant in the top 50,000. Even though I will dedicate a large portion of my life now to improving and being motivated in it. The problem in Guild Wars is that like there's just no middle ground, you know? Like I'm personally reaching to become FIDE master at some point in my life. That's a goal I have. That I feel like, okay, that's possible. But what's the goal you set as a random player in Guild Wars? Well, usually, if I think back to when I was a kid playing League, I was like, okay, I'm playing League of Legends. I qualified, I got gold. Okay, now I want silver. I want this. I believe that the ratings aren't like as valuable, especially due to how it looks, right? Where it's like, if I'm queuing, I believe this season, I was top 10 at some point, and I was queuing. And when I was queuing, I had 2 people that were like below 1,500 on my team. And if I was the person who's below 1,500 and I'm now playing with top 5 players, then I'm like, especially if I lose to that person, because then I'm going to be like, okay, so I'm silver. In order for me to become gold, I need to beat this guy who's in top 10. That's ridiculous. And then I'll lose motivation. And I feel like if people just get hyped about PvP and we get enough players, a lot of the artificial problems that exist right now can be fixed by themselves.
Yeah.
But we need more players. And how we get more players is we need content. We can't create players out of nothing.
But how do we get a new player who joins Heart of the Mist? That's what I was talking about with the whole UI thing, because I believe that when you enter Heart of the Mist, especially as a new player, they see you don't. I don't know if they have some algorithm that shows that you've played only blah 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 hours in PvP, but you need to get some pops on you. You know, you need to understand that, okay, this guy is currently live streaming or showcasing Guild Wars PvP. Like, can we integrate in Heart of the Mist? Can we integrate PvP streamers? I mean, obviously they can. It's a question of finance, but we should have lists. We should have PvP lists. We should be able to insta-click a button to spectate the current AT. I think it should be open for all. And I know that, you can cheat by talking, but it's a 5-minute delay or something. At least we can watch it kind of in real time, and it's an easy click. And I have a bunch of ideas for this. Obviously, ArenaNet has to implement it. They have to code it. They have to fix all this. But I think that a long-lasting, rather than just balancing, because balance will always change, this UI improvement will make the vibe as a PvP lobby. You get the content creators in the right corner when they're going live. I don't know how you register that. Maybe it's ArenaNet partners that specifically have their PvP things on or something, and you can have an algorithm added to a PvP Mist. Because I believe in this PvP lobby. It's already late, but it would have made so many players stick if it was a proper lobby.
How about... oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can't.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, how about a bit of a middle ground solution? Because I really don't think we're ever going to see a full rework of Spectate such that it would be delayed to players. I think that's extremely unlikely to happen. But what I think could happen would be like integration with Twitch to an extent. So if you had, say, an ArenaNet partner streaming an automated tournament, you could maybe detect that a partner is in there and that the partner is live using the Twitch API. And then it could notify players in game, hey, if you want to go watch this tournament, you can go and watch this streamer. I think that is possible. I think that the rework to the way spectating and PvP in general works to make it so that you could add a 5-minute delay. I mean, it's who knows?
Hard.
Maybe I'm really wrong here, but it seems super unlikely. And I think like Twitch integration and content creation integration would be really good. If you recall how, how they had like the messages on the loading screen when stuff like Pro League was running, and even though, the little yellow star on the right-hand side of the screen, like under the map, it was like, oh, look, there's an event happening right now, click it, and it would link you to the Guild Wars 2 Twitch or something like that. I think stuff like that could be really interesting. Like, oh, the monthly tournament tournament, go watch it here, right? And it's like,
Exactly.
it's like a few different streamers are streaming it, EU and NA, right, etc., etc. I think that could be pretty interesting.
Yes.
And that will be the way. That will be a way to go.
Because I notice already how if you're not a part of Hardstuck on Discord, or if you're not a part of, you're not following these Twitch streamers, and you're completely new to the game, and you enter, it's hard. You know, you're gonna have to gradually meet someone who mentions something in map chat, and then all of a sudden you see this, and you can enter the community, but you enter it like after a month or 2 months of playing. Instead, we need it somehow in our faces, to also know that there is events coming, know that the Hardstuck events are popping up here this weekly, blah, blah, blah. You know, I really feel that currently it's like a guy says something, you try to Google it, you find some weird link, you click the other link, and here we find some information. It's like using an old Android versus a new iPhone with an iOS. It's just 2 clicks and you're there. But the old iPhone with developer setting, you're gonna have to move this or that, and everyone is not a developer. So that's my approach. But of course, it's all about finance. So I don't know. I have no belief in that they would change this. I think that they just want to change the numbers on the balance and shift classes. But then we're gonna end up in the same boat in 1 year, or in 6 months, or whenever the hype tones down from EO.
Yeah, it really is that key issue of population. This is exactly what Helseth said, and I completely agree with it. Is that a lot of the issues that we have right now are just because there aren't enough people playing, right? You know, stuff like ranked kind of being a bit bleh and not really meaning that much, and rating being a bit weird. It's because there's not enough people. There not being enough of a middle ground, not enough like medium level players who are kind of accelerating through. Again, there are some people. I think a really good example would be Hearthstone Zan, right? You know, a relatively new player to PvP tryharding. He's been around in the game for a while, but he's started tryhard PvP. Yeah, he's getting really good, right? He's improved. There are people like this. It's just that the volume isn't high enough, right? And there aren't enough people at the top level for the other top players to queue into. Like, if you increase that, well, okay, like we're good. A lot of people tend to blame, oh yeah, the matchmaking algorithm sucks. Well, no, it just doesn't work when there aren't that many people. I mean, it's not like it's the Guild Wars 2 algorithm. It's just an algorithm that a lot of different games use. It's just, it's like ELO or MMR, right? They're just these systems that get used. But if you have bad, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you have like loads that don't have enough players, then the algorithm can't really make good, satisfying games. That's just simply not how it works. And that goes into a lot of ladder integrity stuff too. This is a really hot topic, right? But, and I do think this is a problem. I think this is a problem. And even though it's perhaps not as much as people think it is, the ladder integrity of ranked, I think, is a huge demotivator. Because the problem... Oh, is it DDoS again? Wait, no mind. Oh, no mind. So the really big issue is that if you want to get like a high rank, the way to do that is to not play the game, right? And I mean that in a very literal sense. If you want to get super high rating... unless you are actually like a god tier player, right? We can just bring him up again, like Boise, like solo queues, like trolls, like plays meme builds. Like he still gets like top 10, like all very high rating every season. Build a duo queue with Sin here and there, but he just farms everyone anyway. But if you're a normal player, right, you're a mere mortal. If you want to get top 10 or like top 25, or well, maybe not 25, but certainly top 10, you're going to have to do some weird stuff, right? You're probably going to have to Q dodge people. You're probably going to have to do some shenanigans with playing late at night, right? Like playing super carry, hyper builds, and farming silver players. And the reason you have to do this is because it's possible. And if you don't do it, someone else will. And this is how a lot of rank ones happen in the game right now. Even if you are an excellent player and you are queuing on Prime, you're not going to be able to generate a high enough win rate to get around these people. Like, some people have insane rating. I think the last rank 1 had over 1900 rating, actually. And in the current climate of PvP, that is actually insane, how high that rating really is. And again, the win rate was just ridiculous. And it was done just by queuing at night, pretty much. I mean, there was a bit of an accusation of win trade. To be honest, maybe yes, maybe no, right? I don't think... it's been sufficiently investigated to really warrant it one way or another for that conclusion. But most
you
of it,
don't need to win trade.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need
that.
to. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, you don't need to win trade. You can quite easily, just do this match manipulation stuff and get away with it, and that's all because of population, right? Like, and if stuff like that goes away, the ladder is more interesting. People are going to be more motivated to play, and more importantly, more motivated to play on Prime, right? Because right now you're actually strongly disincentivized to play when everyone else is playing. Because if you do that, it's going to be harder to climb. You don't want to do that right now. And that's a huge issue. That actually is a big problem. Because if you have your top players who want to get a high rating not motivated to play normally, then it makes it even worse. It's even worse than it already is. So fixing the population is the thing that is going to make Guild Wars 2 PvP in every possible respect happen. Okay, yeah, we fixed it, guys. Just add more players, ArenaNet. Come on, have you guys not thought of that yet? What are you doing? But if we can do that, then maintaining that is going to be the key. But in a way, it will be self-fulfilling, because if you have more people, then a lot of the problems we're referring to kind of go away. The problem is will players be engaged enough with this game mode? Will it have the reputation and the public perception to actually latch on a lot of extra players there as well?
And yeah, that final statement matters a lot, because it's what you said. The whole ladder thing is damaging for so many reasons. It's damaging because everyone that's solo queuing, when boys solo queues, or if I solo queue, if Rom solo queues, we don't really care about the rating, right? Like, I've been everything from top 10 to low plat to everything. It doesn't matter from our perspective. Like, you're not a good player because you're high rated, and you're not a bad player if you're mid. I mean, every good player is going to land somewhere around plat, right? But that's not really there's nothing really challenging or motivating to, like, why should I do my best while queuing? Why should I really care about every single game like this? And who am I competing with? Who am I comparing myself to? Well, I'm not comparing myself to, if I'm boys, I'm not comparing myself to the other people in the top 10, right? Like, that's not what I'm doing, because he knows that the people in the top 10, they're not even in his games. He's going to have someone that's not even in the top 250, because he's playing at Prime while streaming and all that stuff, and there's not a soul around him. And that damages the perception of PvP, because what we say gets, like, repeated, but it gets repeated even more negatively and all that stuff. And while you take Boyce, he loves playing this game. He plays all the time, right? But someone that is not interested in PvP and engaged in it, they'll still hear him say something like, this game's dead and all that stuff, and it gets regurgitated. And people don't get excited or interested in PvP. I remember when they reworked solo queue and all that stuff, and there was actual ladder for the first time. The amount of people that were watching me just to get legend for the first time, like, we were competing with each other to get legend first and all that stuff. There was a lot of excitement about all of that stuff, all of them. And I feel like a lot of people are just, again, it's a community thing, because Guild Wars 2's PvP scene is a grassroots scene, more or less. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be some ESL stuff anymore and all that stuff. And that's fine. Games can do extremely well by being only community driven. Again, this stream is an example of it. But you have, like, Smash and a bunch of other games where the community cares about the game. They love the game. They want to, they want to do the most with it. And because of that, they keep evolving it. They keep pushing it. I'll use chess as an example again. I mean, chess, if you want to just look at chess and doomsay it, well, there's not a single player in the world that's better than the engine on my cell phone. So chess is ruined. You can't beat my cell phone. But that's not how people look at it, because they love the game, they want to push it and all that stuff. And I feel like top players in Guild Wars 2 have a responsibility to not garbage the ladder like that. Because in general, people that do that, sometimes it's more or less no names, but often it's not, right? Often it's someone that is good. I'll mention Rip because I know his name. And really good player, good streamer, all that stuff, yet he still did this garbage to get rank 1. And he as well devalued this. And the problem is that if you're not going to take it seriously, nobody is. And then you're ruining the interest of everyone around you. I couldn't care any less about my rank. I don't even know. I think I'm high plat right now. I don't care. Because the whole, everything around it is ruined. But if we were to, like, try to improve it as as a community, then we're giving so much more possibilities for it to evolve. And I think people need to stop looking at the short term, because that's been a theme of Guild Wars 2 PvP last year and currently, is that a lot of people are looking at what can I get out of this right now, and they're ignoring the consequences of the long term. I've done this mistake myself. During the Pro League Season 2, I was one of the people that were super much against the idea of them immediately nerfing Bunker Mesmer. Because I played Bunker Mesmer, I'm playing tournaments, I'm playing in this stuff. I don't want you guys to ruin my winning chances. But the game was irrevocably damaged from us doing that. Now, I could have made the positive change there and actually been like, you guys, look at the Twitch chat. They're all making sleeping emojis. And we could have made a change there, but we didn't. And we lost the ESL, so that's the consequence from how the game went there. And maybe it would have happened regardless, but that's still a consequence. The current state of the game, in my opinion, you're looking at ladder, I feel like all that types of stuff needs to be community banned, right? I did this for PvP, okay? Anyway, the community should frown against it, like genuinely, and everyone should, like, we should take accountability in making sure that doesn't happen. I feel like monthlies and weeklies and all that stuff, we should basically, I feel like if you look at like this last monthly that happened, I feel like it could have been 50 times better for everyone involved if the 55 Gentlemen team streamed. If they had at least someone on that team streaming with communication. Now, they're going to be against it because, oh, well, we want to win our monthly, but why would you care? You can win every single monthly till the end of time right now doing what you're doing, but the game isn't going to improve. But if you guys actually streamed with communications, you would create great content. You would, in the long term, earn more from it because people would watch you, people would subscribe, people would get excited, you get more viewers, you get more players. It would be better for the game. The short term is you don't have your advantage anymore in the PvP scene, but the long term game is that you're helping the game grow. And I feel like in general, the scene is so incredibly focused on, I don't care about the game. That's been so many things. We have top players that have actively been damaging the game, looking for things to just, some people that are literally saying, I don't care. I want to see how badly we can make it. Oh, I'm gonna make sure that I'm in the top 10. I'm gonna put myself in the top 10 on solo queue just because I can. And then they're sitting there every day putting so much effort, every night queuing and all that stuff. And they shower themselves in the entire top 10 and you accomplished nothing. While you could have done so much to actually improve the scene there. And someone in chat mentioned that it's not players' responsibility to grow the game, that's ArenaNet's job. You're correct, but that doesn't change anything. You're correct, but doesn't change anything. If the Smash scene said, oh, well, you know, it's Nintendo's job to make sure that we
you
get
really
esports,
are nowhere.
Yeah. They would get nowhere, but they themselves made the content and look at where they got. The stage when Smash got to Evo is that they riled up a bunch of donations and they beat out another game, Skullgirls, to get onto Evo for the first time, and that skyrocketed the popularity of the game. And it just continued from there, and they're still making locals. And we're talking about people that have no infrastructure compared to what we had, right? What we have right now. And people, to that point, even went so extreme that they've created like digital versions of the game where they can play online with each other and all that stuff. I'm not saying that we have to do that in Guild Wars, but I'm showing the level of difference in a grassroots game versus a grassroots game, where in this game, they tried actively to do everything to grow the game because they're passionate about it. And it can be everything from Smash to a 100-year-old game like chess to plenty of other speed runs. Like, there's so many games out there that have nothing that what we're asking to have from ArenaNet, but they're still succeeding because they're actively trying to grow the game. Again, Teapot stream is evidence that it's not impossible. Because if someone told me that Teapot would be able to have 800 viewers streaming this game in 2022, I'd slap them. And look at me, I would have slapped you for no reason. That's silly of me, but that's still what I would have done. And that's like, we genuinely have things we can do as a community when the expansion arrives. And whether we do it or not, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put that responsibility on Teapot to sort it out. So if he doesn't, chat, blame him. Chat, just call him Garb. You know.
Yeah. I guess the follow-up to that, I think you're right here. And what I want to explore is what type of thing do we need to do? How do we create this perspective shift, this change in approach to the game, specifically from the top players? Because I think the thing I really want to repeat from what you said there was, if the top players don't care, then no one's going to care. This is something that I really strongly believe. I think one of the worst things that can happen is if the top players don't care or don't give a shit, then everyone else is like, well, these guys don't care, so why should I, right? I think the really big thing was the monthly selling, right? When we don't need to get into that too much, but a lot of top players, right, were literally selling the monthly automated tournament to people by playing on alt accounts for real money, right? And if that's happening, it's like, well, I mean, they're just not taking it seriously. They have zero respect for the game, right? Like, so why would anyone else possibly have any respect for the game at that point? And how do we change that? Like, what do we do? Like, what do we need to, like, permaban these people? just reset everyone. We need a great reset. Get rid of every single person above Plat 3. Like, what could we offer or organize that would create the system where people would care? Is it stuff like a monthly tournament external to the game with, like loads of people watching, so there's like a big ego boost from winning it, right? With the ArenaNet title, we can shower people in gold, right? We can do this, we can do that. Like, what is going to be that hook to create this, like, this respect for the game and the integrity of the game?
I feel like something that could do a lot. So in real life, I work as a manager right now, right? And a lot of focus in sales. And I've now continuously turned around a bunch of businesses where they were completely failing or going to close, and now they're performing extremely well. And the reason why I say that is because I think the mentality for those people is very similar to the mentality of here, where people don't care, they're just doing their thing and it's irrelevant. What I always do when I try to change the frame of mind of people and try to improve things from where they are is that talk with everyone, like set up a meeting, whether that's 30 people or whether that in this time, everyone that's involved in monthlies consistently, everyone that's involved in the top ladder consistently, basically have a chat and ask everyone genuinely, like, what do we want to do with this game? Like, it's entirely up to us what this game becomes at this point. For instance, if we want this game to completely die, then you just need to leave, and then this game's dead, right? And again, it sounds like I'm sucking up, but I'm not, because I'm literally just saying it as it is. It's literally facts that if we take away the people who care about it, then it's dead. And the same thing can be said there, but there's a lot of people that I think if they just talked about it, like, I'm just going to name drop people, and I haven't talked to them about it, but I still believe I know them enough. I believe that if you talk to Frey, then Frey wants this game to grow. Frey's super passionate about this game. He wants the best for this game. If he's part of that meeting, he's going to have 50 different ideas of how you can do it, and he's going to be able to agree with a bunch of things. It's like, okay, this shouldn't be done, this shouldn't be done, this should be done. As a top player, sure, if it's some weird random who does it and nobody knows him, but I don't think a weird random is going to go 100-0 in ladder in midnight. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen if you're a high-ranked player and you decide to do it. But if you can talk to everyone that's relevant in the top scene, and I would even include people that aren't necessarily super active in it, but just get everyone involved and ask everyone, what is our vision for what we want Guerrilla Stew to do, and what do we have to do to change it? And then we'll just look at everything that decreases the value of the game, and we'll work towards that end goal. And if we see that someone is against it, like damages it, then we need to have, I'm not going to say repercussions, but we need to have solutions to people doing that. Because if everyone is trying something and then there's like 10 people that stop caring, if there's no repercussions for those 10 people, then those 10 people are going to turn into 15 because they've ruined it for the... And basically, if we just talk up, and because there's a lot we can do already, there's a lot that's wrong that's being done in the game. We mentioned some of it like before we even went live on stream. But like people damaging the longevity of the game for short-term value. And I think the perfect example that comes off the top of my head is, I don't think that the 55 gentlemen team playing together is a bad thing. I think that them playing together while never playing anyone else, because they're not going to play anyone else, because they'll join the day before. That's what Misha did, and apparently Drazi did it 2 days before. But I don't see why they can't stream. Boyce is a streamer. Let him stream with voice. That alone is going to create content. It's going to create value to them dominating that monthly. It's also going to give an opportunity to their opposition to sneak in and learn all that stuff. And if they do it, it's very easy to argue that the person who took second place should do it because they're doing it. Now, if the person who's second place does it, but the first place doesn't, it's never going to happen. But if you try to like from the top end, like improve everyone else, then it's gonna leave. Then it's going to leave the scene in a better place. I'm not going to say it's going to change everything in the game pogging up, but I believe that if we get an influx from players, whether that would be from an expansion, whether it would be from a Steam release, whether that would be from some MMO out there dying or something happening and Guild Wars 2 getting poggers, when you have those players there, if the scene comes in, like if people come into the scene and they see nothing exciting to get, strive towards, then even if you get people into the game, they're going to disappear. We had so many chances already where we had plenty of people coming in, but they never stay. And I believe that we can't put the ball on ArenaNet's hands because that's what we always do. Oh, look at this. We got this whole WoW boon. Man, can't wait until ArenaNet fixes this so that everyone's staying. And it never happens. So if we're being realistic, it's not going to happen. So what's the solution? Either we give up or we do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like the idea of that big meeting. I think that sounds like fun, for sure. I want to bring Rom in on this. He's been lurking there in the corner. Just do you have a take on this?
I'm thinking. I'm really thinking about all of it, and I keep coming back to the numbers and how we keep those numbers intact. We're all here. Everyone who play, and now I'm talking specifically PvP, if we go back to Teapot, for example, when he started his PvP swag, I mean, Teapot, you entered raids too, to build your communities in game too, and, but if we segregate to PvP, I really think that EOD now is probably the last true shot of the Guild Wars 2 franchise. And I keep coming back to this Valve launch with Steam, and how the integration must be intact, because I think we could bump this population. I don't know, this is fucking amateur numbers, excuse my language, but I think we could bump 30-40% just very fast into the mists. And I don't know. I just want this integration to the content creators. And when we get those new bold players coming, and it will even motivate Boyce or Draze and those existing top players, and they can become pillars of the community even more. Showcases. We need face. And like Helseth said about the sales, it was exactly the same at my company a year ago. We needed certain incentivizing faces, that could be the face of the company, the face outwards, and look how they feel, how they act. They feel good about this journey they've made, and I want to be a part of it. And it's so hard to get those new players to actually feel that, because 1 month you play PvP 3 weeks and then you go back to your living story because it's, I don't know, you don't feel the vibe. Some are more community vibe, some are more hardcore vibe. But if you want hardcore PvP, you might as well go to League of Legends or go to another MOBA or such. I really believe in this UI change a little bit. I don't know how easy it would be for ArenaNet to implement this a little bit UI change, because I personally will pop off now. I will pop off as much content as I can for EOD. I still got some time. I got a few months of time where we can invest in it. And I'm going to try my very best to get Boise on board, Draze on board, to make some IRL movies. And, I think IRL movie could be a fun thing. It's a new, unique thing. We never did it. I almost want to fly to you in UK, Teapot, and do some idiotic thing, But I agree with the meeting too, what you mentioned. Somehow, if we can get the PvP guys, even in a voice meeting, just do a once a week thing. You don't have to join every week, but join every here and there. We share thoughts, content ideas, and whatnot. I think it's the only way forward. And you've been the driving force in it. You need help, you know? And as Helseth say, Smash is the best example of a community-driven game who didn't die simply because of the community. So yeah, it's a rough, complex question, you know? We're all here because we love Guild Wars 2 PvP. The mechanics of this game is the best mechanics, the most freedom mechanical game.
Bye, Rom. That was good talk.
Oh,
good talk.
yeah. He is frozen. He is gone.
Yet again. He'll be back.
He's probably still going. That's the best part. He probably doesn't realize yet. But very unfortunate stuff. But yeah, it's certainly true. It is definitely a big challenge, a really, really big challenge. I think we've almost kind of like rounded out this topic there. I think we have a fairly good understanding of what's going on. There's some of the issues the game is facing with regards to new players and so on and stuff like that. I guess from now, I think I just kind of want to make a bit of an abrupt transition to a few other things there as well, actually. And this is one that really interests me, actually. And I think you're going to have a lot of good insight on this, seeing as you are ex-pro and Rom as well, of course. What does the ideal game of Conquest look like to you? So when I say that, I mean like the flow of the game, right? So for example, right now, not ideal. It's just run it down mid and just smash people with team fights. Side noting, duelist, not really that much of a thing right now. I'm curious, like, what do you think would be a good state? How do you want the game to play out? In a more interesting way, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I feel like welcome back, Ron. I feel like I recall back when I was doing this semi-cringe video when we went to US and we did some promo videos for World Tournament Series. I believe it was Cologne, and the words I spoke then kind of struck me even now, where I basically mentioned that we have a playstyle where we don't win fights, but because we're playing with like the Mesmer Thief setup that we're doing with the MOA, we're actively looking into not team fighting, but we're looking to win the nodes and disengaging and then playing like this guerrilla style. And there is certain variance to it, but I believe that Conquest should have a multitude of strategies and approaches of how you play the game. And that's pretty much always existed. Now, there's existed to different tiers of it, but there's been teams that were more team fight oriented. They were spec'd into the team fight a little bit more. There were teams that had their a little bit more 1v1 focus, and there were teams that were doing, all sorts of different tactics and strategies. You had the dynamics, for instance, of Mesmer with Portal and MOA versus Thief. You had Mesmer Thief teams. You had no Thief teams. You had teams with only Thief, teams with only Mesmer. So basically, this opened up a lot of strategic possibilities in how the game is. And I believe that the problem right now is that builds have become so powerful and the game has become so streamlined that the strategy is kind of forced. You're not going to play a team without a Thief. You're just not. Because if you do, then the Thief is just going to... The game is just ruined from that point on for the team without the Thief. They can't actively go for team fights because they're just going to get completely dominated by decaps. And the same can be said for it's like you're not going to play without a Guardian because, or at least without support, because if you do, then the team fights are impossible. But because of this, everyone is kind of forced into this same ideas. And the only thing that really changes is one of the damage rolls. There'll either be there'll be a Rev instead of a Holosmith, or there'll be a Necro instead of it, and that's basically it. I feel like the ideal style of Conquest would be if there were basically more... There would be more builds that are like different, that are viable. Because right now you have... The roles are so set. There is literally no other decap roamer than Thief. Right? No, there's not. But ideally, there would be. Ideally, there would be another class that could do the same thing as Thief does, but a little differently. So that it opens up the strategic possibilities of like, okay, this team is good at this, but this team is good at this. And the current state of Guild Wars 2, it's just, I feel like that's why I'm really excited about the expansion, because I sincerely hope, honestly, looking at the specs in the previous test, it didn't give me that vibe. But I hope that in the future we'll get to a point where there's more than these just set roles, because we've had the same not metagame, but we've had the same playstyle for ever since POF came out, more or less. Like, there's been different builds, but the playstyle is the same. That's why Synth can stop playing this game right now. If the meta stays the same, Synth can stop playing the game now, and he can come back in 3 years, and he'll still be good. Because it's still the exact same gameplay, but that shouldn't happen. Like, I can't quit League of Legends for 3 years and then come back and immediately be top tier, because the game will have evolved. There'll be new strategies. Sure, I'll have mechanics and all that stuff to help me build, but you can't just do the exact same thing. And that's been the case with Guild Wars 2. I mean, it's a... Let's pretend that Mesmer was one of the top tier classes. Then when I came back, I wouldn't need to learn, Mirage and how to... And then realize that it's not even functioning and all that stuff. Pretend that Mesmer was in the state of Necro. Then immediately when I came back, I would have already been, ready to play the game. Because there's nothing new in the role. But I feel like every single class should have gotten such a dramatic shift as Mirage has gotten. So I guess that's just my view of Conquest, where I would like more variety to it. Like I'd like, that's why, hoping that the expansion, Virtuoso is a dramatically different role. Instead of being like this clone focused shadow stuff, it's focused on being useless. And I feel like that's completely different. Like, it's a unique playstyle where I'll get to press my buttons, look away, and they'll stop functioning. And that's exciting to me. Because I'll get to do something new.
So kind of dig in on that a little bit. What do you think causes that some professions tend to kind of fill a certain role with no alternative, right? I think Thief definitely is, one of those things that it's hard to replace right now. So I think the obvious solution is you could have need something that's a little bit like Thief except different, which doesn't exist that much. In a way, it's kind of Mirage to an extent. Or Mesmer. You kind of always had a bit of a Mesmer Thief, have had a similar thing there as well, particularly when Portal was in play, right? That kind of rotational style thing there as well. But for a lot of the other stuff, like, support or say Team Fighter, Holosmith, Rev, Necro, do we just need to buff other builds to be as good as those, or obviously nerf the ones that are really good right now? Is there just not enough variety? Do things need to be able to compete with this? Is that going to be able to fix the problem there?
There's two ways of going about it. Either you nerf the stuff that happens to be strong right now, and you do enough nerfs for the meta to shift, and that's hard in my opinion, because we've seen that time and time again. Certain builds have gotten nerfed so many times, and they're still top tier. Like Holosmith is a good example that was nerfed a couple of times and still wins monthlies. And like, I feel like nerfs should be used to prevent things that are really toxic. Like, I'm just gonna throw a random thing that I personally think should have been nerfed since ages ago. I think Signal of Mercy shouldn't be a thing. Like in top level PvP,
Correct.
It's not a problem. But in terms of ranked and all that stuff, I think it's really toxic to the game. I feel like that's one of those clear candidates. Nerf this because it's bad for the game, get rid of it. But then you look at ideas of, okay, so Thief, in order to nerf Thief, like people say Shadow Arts, but there's so many things that makes Thief that you're never going to get rid of it. Well, Portal got nerfed out of existence when Mesmer was super, super strong. I feel like, I'm unbiased, but hey, Portal shouldn't be the state it is now. Like, if you look at the Mirage spec could have been super interested if it had the old Portal. Because it wouldn't have Mantra of Distraction, which is a really annoying thing to play versus, but you swap that out and you have Portal instead, and now you have something that could potentially replace Thief. I'm not even saying it would. And if it would be bad for the game, you would nerf it again. But you would try to actively add things to replace the new roles. Like, and just like keep buffing ideas, and when those ideas are toxic to the game, you nerf them. You use the nerf as a tool to deal with what was toxic to the game. And I feel like, again, I mentioned the February patch. That's why I love the February patch. The amount of things that were really bad for the game that they got rid of was amazing. Like Staff 5 on Rev used to one-shot people and all that stuff. Like, there's so many things that got fixed, right? Which is good, genuinely really good. And now we're at the state where the game is just stagnant. And the way you make it not stagnant is you add new content to it. Now, you can add new content by making new specializations and classes and all that stuff. That's a lot of effort. Or you just look at the amount of utilities that are garbage. And I'm not saying you rework every single utility, but just be like, okay, well, we want to see more healers in the game. oh, well, look at this. Scrapper has a bunch of healing traits and all that. Let's just try jacking all this up and see what happens. The risk with this, though, is that if they don't patch often enough and they make something absolutely bad for the game, then we're stuck with that. But goodbye, Rom. It's good seeing you. But I still think like that's the tool. We basically just need more tools in the game, and I feel like there shouldn't be people shouldn't be scared of experimenting with it. Also, Signal Mercy should disappear.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there are a few problems that are almost a little bit inherent with the way certain professions end up playing out and are designed? I think, for example, a really big problem that kind of plagued Path of Fire in particular, and some of the metas we've had kind of over the past few years, were that you've had incredibly versatile builds inherently, right? Like Hollowsmith kind of does everything. Even now, it kind of does a little bit of everything. A lot less so than it used to. But it was very, very versatile. Renegade was like this too. It was incredibly versatile. It was good at roaming around. It was great at teamfighting. It could even hold its own in a 1v1 really well. And so on and so on and so on, right? I think Scourge, another example of this. It was a support. It did amazing damage. It was really tanky, right? It could hold nose. It was just disgusting build. Like, no matter what rotation you made on Scourge, it probably wasn't that bad. What do you do about something like that? Like, do you think ArenaNet should maybe look at the design of certain elite specializations and attack them and rework them a little bit to prevent that from happening? Because I think that can have a really, it can make certain builds very, very sticky, right? And difficult to dislodge from the meta without making them like complete garbage, if that makes any sense. It's like really hard to find that middle ground when something is very, very versatile. Because I think versatility is a very powerful thing. In Guild Wars 2 PvP, like being able to be good in a lot of different situations has a lot of inherent power to it. And well, the other thing I would mention is kind of boons and effects that are a little bit locked to professions. I think the really big example right now is Core Guardian, the support build, because that's kind of the only thing that has a lot of stability in the game. There's not much else that has that. Like Renegade has a little bit with Jealous, but Guardian is kind of the only thing that Tempest doesn't do that, like the competing support, and neither does Warrior. And they don't need to have that, but I think locking a very powerful effect like that on exactly one profession and having these kind of specializations be very versatile can cause inherent problems with the way the game plays out.
Yeah, and that's why I think the fix is what you spoke against there, which is like, oh, well, maybe other supports don't need to have it. Well, I mean, the alternative is that you get the situation where if something is mandatory, it's very easy. Like Thief is a good example of this. It's very easy for this thing to be either overpowered or garbage, and never in between. Like Thief is a great example of this, because if Thief is awfully in fights right now, if it's unusable in fights, it can't +1, then it's unusable. But as long as it's good in +1ing, it's always going to be a top tier, because it never has to take the equal fights. It can just go to decap stuff, and it can just +1. So because of that, it's always going to be fine. And the way you deal with that being such an apex role is you give other classes the opportunity to do the same thing. The same can be said about Guardian. Like if stability is a good thing to the game, like if everyone thinks, okay, stability is a nice thing to have in PvP. Because if it's not, you nerf it. That's the solution. You nerf it, stability is irrelevant to PvP, problem solved. But if it is a good thing to the game, if we want stability to be a thing, and Guardian is the only thing that has stability, then the solution is give stability to other classes. And in that way, you're going to give more versatility. So I don't think it has to be any harder than that. The only question is, yet again, like how exactly you do it. Because I'm just saying a random thing, like give classes stability. Well, what build, what class, what skill, what utility, what trait. But there's salaried employees that deal with that stuff. So I'm just saying the solution, and they'll figure out the exact.
Yeah, just giving a little tip, a little bit of a tip up there. Yeah, that's. Oh yeah. Oh, what have you got for us, Rom?
No, but I agree with that inherent balance you talked about, or classes and builds that have a complete balance. If Scourge is also an example. When that was OP, it was probably one of the worst states of the game. It's actually similar to what Mirage was in the beginning of PoF 2. Remember how they literally perma-dodged and you died from candies, or massive confusion stacks. Small details like that are really, in my opinion, and probably the vast opinion of the community, these are stuff that kinda makes the meta very boring, and meaning that you usually play less. Also stuff like mobility. Mobility is, in my opinion, makes the game more fun to watch, which means that portals on a Mesmer should try to be really viewed in a positive aspect, even though they may be OP at times, but then you can tune down some other things or utility. Like I feel like a portal is a good thing to the game. Same with Thief. I like Thief, but it's like Helseth says, it's hard. It's hard. Either it's OP as hell or it's useless in fights. It's hard to really balance it out, but I feel that same with the side noder. Side noder game is extremely important for the game. The importance of a team fight versus the importance of winning duels or winning 2v2s. This is something we lack a little bit at the moment, to be forced onto the balance guardian.
Oh no.
It's gone. It's gone.
He's
It's over.
gone.
No one
Oh,
game is
no.
getting pretty annoyed.
That is
Beautiful.
very unfortunate. I was running for the wisdom. Yeah, I thought my internet was bad, but apparently it's not quite as bad as Rom. Oh, welcome back.
Rom.
Okay.
You said the balance guardian. What are your last words, Rom?
My last word, yeah. I'm also to point that out, guys. I'm really sorry about this. I have no clue what's going on with Discord. I have never. It literally recharges. It loses connection. But anyway, I was on Guardian.
Yes, on Guardian. Yeah.
On Guardian. Yeah, but what I meant was that Guardian Necro has been the main 2v2 main teamfight pillar for the entire POF, I guess. It was Scourge Guardian for how long? Years. And now it's Core Necro Guardian is probably one of the strongest still. All I meant was that it's really about ArenaNet's balance should be a balance between how fun is it to play and how easily is it to spectate and fun for a viewer to watch. And it's very hard to find this balance, to be a fair game, to be a fair game for the highest tier, a fair game for the mid-tier game, the ranked gaming. And there is always going to be difference of opinions. But to me, the winners here that are easily changed and to easily focus on are stuff like Portal. I guess I mentioned that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about Portal, right? The importance of this, yeah. The importance of Mesmer having this function that is actually so significant in a PvP game. And the difference between teamfight and side node and how you cannot let the meta ever direct towards a full teamfight. Because when it does, we're going to end up in a deathmatch 4v4/5v5 where the winner will snowball 250 points.
And I feel like there's value in having... There's comps... If you have comps that are like teamfight oriented, it's fine, but it can't be the only thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where, for example, Portal comes in, but also mobile side noders. So when you have more mobile 1v1ers, and I'm not saying a Thief, right? Because they have invis, they have extreme mobility. I'm talking like the old Druid, for example. It's a big difference between how the side game works today and contra how it looked when you had Druid. The game was fluid in a completely different way. Rotations were able to happen. You could swap players in the fight. Now you're either all in or you're out, and it's hard, of course. And now we have EOD to enlighten new specs. So we'll see. Maybe Spectre, roaming Spectre is the new semi-support. Who knows? But yeah, I guess that's my take.
What do you think is preventing duelists and side noders from being relevant right now?
I think they are relevant, but they don't have as much impact. I think it's mobility. I think that if you have somewhat more mobile side noders, you will be able to rotate them much more effectively. Right now, it's really, you can use pretty much... I mean, now I'm talking about the ATs and such, but a Ranger, for example, probably makes less value than a Holosmith in the team fight, but he's quite good in that specific duel. So hypothetically, let's say the Boise Frey Zan team, Draze boy, their monster team, right? How to theoretically counter them would be to put, let's say, a Valk Ranger against whatever side holder they have. And they would have to swap the classes. If this core Valk Ranger is good enough, he's gonna get every single side node all the time. But the value of him winning against, let's say, a Holosmith will be nothing, because the Holosmith can leave, move to the team fight, and they have so much snowball power that they can kill 4 people. While the Ranger is what? Full capping a node? So I'd give some mobility. I'd try to view it to give mobility to 1v1 ideas, and it's hard. It's really hard.
The problem with the 1v1 side node area is that it always has to account for Thief, because Thief is the only roamer you need to care about, more or less. And the problem with that is every single 1v1 build that you make, like for instance, I mentioned before that theoretically, if they wanted to win with Mesmer, the super pug that won just now, they could have. They could have just taken the Inspiration Chaos Mesmer and had it basically just stand on node. And it could basically stalemate the fight, and then they'll win the game during that time. And as long as that side noder doesn't insta-die to Thief. And that means that a lot of the builds, the whole side node game used to be very different because Thief wasn't mandatory in the meta. And what happened is, if I'm 1v1ing you, well, first of all, it'd destroy you. But second of all, it would actually, like, my 1v1 with you had context to the game, where like this will end at some point, and if I outscale you, I'll win. If I get +1, well, I know what's +1ing me. If I'm in advantage, I can kite during that time. I can make some value doing that. The problem right now is if you're going a build that's QPP. If you're going a build that's actually like gonna be high damage, like Mirage. Mirage can 1v1 certain classes. The Condi dominates Mirage. But if it pushes a node, then it's just dead to Thief. Which means that everyone that plays a side noder has to play something that can be +1 by the Thief and not die. But that inherently means that it's going to be side noders that are tankier, that are not going to be as much damage, and then it's going to be like a stale matchup, because both players are going to go in this bunker build together. So you'll have Scourges in the side nodes, you'll have the Druid, which was tankier not too long ago, be the side noders, and you'll have decap builds be the side noders.
Yeah.
Because these builds don't die, but they still have an impact on the node. And it's not very exciting in terms of like what you're creating on the side node. And the way you deal with that is, again, you need more tools in the metagame. You need a side noder that can offensively deal with Thief. Which means that whether it's a roamer that can deal with the Thief, let's pretend, I'm just going to make an imaginary build. I'm going to have a Sikkim Ranger that can actually follow Thief. Now, it's not going to be as good at +1ing, but it's going to be really good at chasing the Thief in my imaginary scenario. Which means that if I see that the Thief is stealthing in the middle, I can reveal him, and I can chase him, and I can kill him if he leaves the fight. If I do this, it completely changes the dynamics, because the Ranger has to keep a watch on the Thief has to stay away from the Ranger, and they're playing according to that. Like, Mesmer used to have higher impact than Thief in the plus, due to Portal and due to Moa. So I could immediately win a node, or immediately win a fight, or immediately save a fight, or immediately change a fight as a Mesmer. However, Thief would whip that smack me. So I would have to avoid the Thief or play around with my Thief and hide away from them, and it would create this dynamics of how the roamers worked, which in turn also impacted the side noders, because the matchups were completely different. For instance, if the Thief didn't follow the Mesmer, and he +1 the side nodes, now the Mesmer could mow a fight, and there would be dynamics to the game. Right now, it's like, if a Thief +1's close, then the rotation is you send a support to heal the guy. That's one set rotation. Alternatively, the guys who's on close will run away, and you'll focus on either decapping far or 5-manning middle. There's your rotation. There's no other dynamics to it. There's nothing else you can, because that's the strategic options we have right now. And if we had more tools, in terms of like whether it would be utilities, whether it would be like Shadow Portal used to be played and all that stuff, it changes up the spice and you get more options to it. And again, if side noders had more of a role outside of just side noding, whether that would be winning their fight or making some impact on middle. Way back in the days, Spirit Rangers used to be side noding, and they used to sometimes put spirits on middle to help support it. But if they did that, they would be weaker on their sides, and there would be dynamics. Like there's gameplay elements to it. Right now, if you play as a side noder, you're most likely playing as a mule who's going to sit on bottom buff until the game is over. And it's not exciting, like, at all.
Yes, but that's what I meant, that Druid was one of those metas where they had rotating impact. You could disengage ally, you could move like this, and it really drastically changed a lot. Same if Mesmer has impact on the side. If Mesmer is strong 1v1, it also had that portal to make plays more than it. And of course, but we had the symbolic meta, for those who remember that Beastmaster, literally AFKing while his team, what was their names? Fantarams, Seth and those boys. I remember he was literally AFK the whole game, let the 4v4 do the job. And of course we may end there, but I think that the rotating meta will come back if you cock a little bit of the team fight basilisk or the team fight guardian, because as soon as you remove that pillar of survival, it means that you can start rotating DPS into it, and you can actually move around. It's not just gonna be a troop of 3 main team fighters that are gonna destroy everything as soon as you have a guardian in it. But I don't know. What Helseth you were telling me, it worked also what you were saying, because we had different amulets. We had an elementalist with menders. We had a druid with menders. We had scrappers that was kind of tanky. So the rotation game could be much more open, because you could live 3v2 for a while. But good luck living against a Herald Rev, Holosmith full power nuke, and a Core Necro, you know? Nothing survives. So I guess it's an amulet game too. But yeah, it's very hard to say what would be the most ideal meta, so to say. We're gonna have to watch EOD now for a while, see how they develop, how people develop builds. Hopefully, we'll see some roamer one sides, some 2v2 gameplay coming in, and yeah, I hold my thumbs.
Well, every profession is getting some new mobility. Like, everyone has a blink now. That was one of the design principles for Ender Dragons. Everyone has some kind of teleportation ability, which is pretty interesting. I guess we'll have to see how that one develops out there. But it seems that this issue we're referring to here really comes down to the fact that certain builds are kind of mandatory, and there's no... The only answer to it is having it yourself, right? Like with the Thief, the only way you can really deal with the Thief is essentially having a Thief of your own, right? And if you want to match the team fight, well, you just have to basically run the same thing. There's like no way around that. So it seems that all these things are inherently linked as a concept, and that kind of like tackling one of them might cause the entire thing to kind of come crashing down to the ground and hopefully resolve there a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think the specific one there was with the kind of like the hypothetical Thief counter, right? That Helseth was talking about. I think the problem with Thief right now, and maybe even Necromancer to an extent, right, is that there's not much of an answer to it, right? Like, what are you going to run to counter it right now? Like, what are you going to do? It's difficult to do that. I mean, yeah, you can. I think the Sikkim Ranger is a pretty interesting example, actually, because yeah, on paper you could honestly mess up a Thief with that, right? You can if you land that and you burst them, yeah, they're in trouble. At that point, the problem is if you do that, well, you don't really provide enough value outside of doing that it will be worth it. And it will still be difficult to do as well, to be frank, right? Like the Thief has a really good ability to be incredibly sustainable. I get we're getting a little bit maybe unnecessarily specific here, but do you think that a lot of this is kind of down to the Shadow Arts trait line in Thief right now, like the massive amount of stealth it has? Is that a big problem with it being difficult to shut down a Thief?
Personally, yes. Personally, I think that Thief is one of those classes that, I don't know, it feels like it is a class that should scale a lot with personal impact. It's not the teamfight class that can synergize with ally extremely well. I mean, you can, but it's not the same, right? You can invis your ally, 2-1 invis, but it should have a high impact. I feel Thief you should not be able to triple dodge into an invis, into hitting a little bit, reveal is up, after that reveal you invis again, and you can choose to perma invis, pretty much. It shouldn't be the case. Thief should be damage, in my opinion. This is my view. It should be rather higher damage, or if you go defensive, you should just be a dodge bot. Like, you shouldn't do impactful things offensively. But yes, Shadow Arch, to me, if you remove that trait line, we would see more high damage thieves, but we would also see the high tier thieves scale up a lot. Maybe it would make them out of meta, I don't know, but I would definitely see the difference between a high skill thief and a low skill thief. And you do still today, but Shadow Arch made everyone middle class a little bit. You know, the difference between a good and a bad was significantly lower. I saw in games, random games back in the day, we knew when we saw a thief. We knew the name. We knew that guy is going to be horrible to us. He's going to be dangerous. But today, it's like, I see a thief on the enemy team. I know he's going to live. I can't kill him. He's just going to run away. Even if he spikes me, he's going to survive. So I really think that Shadow Arch is a big, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, basically what I said previously, I'll echo it. And if I recall my time in the Balance Discord, it was literally me saying nothing but remove Shadow Arts over and over again. Basically, again, I feel like you should nerf things when they're basically more or less, you can have a discussion and say, yeah, this is probably not good for the game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, numbers are a thing. You can always just tweak numbers left and right. For instance, Holosmith at its absolute peak, when he was like this Giga Chad build that could 1v16, it would kill people in literally one nade barrage and all that stuff. Okay, this is broken, but I don't dislike the build of Holosmith. It's just that the numbers are too high. But when you're looking at certain concepts, I think that a good example of this is like Bunker Mesmer back in the days, how it rests. We can just say that is not good for the game. Like, this resting power shouldn't be in the game right now. I think, again, I'm going to use Signal of Mercy as an example. When I play ranked, and when I watch team fights and I see like this big action happen, and then a team fight literally boils down to, does the Guardian get Signal of Mercy off? Which can be as simple as cast a blinding powder on him before he casts it, and he's fine. And it can be as simple as, oh, his stab is up in 1 second and his ally happened to die before that second. So now it's too late and now you're going to get... It's too big of an impact for something that isn't really fun to play against. It's not really fun for anyone involved. And I feel like, okay, that's the thing you should nerf. Thief, when you look at it, when you look at the Shadow Arts gameplay of permanent stealth, having to be a side noder. Thank God I've never had to be a side noder in any meta versus the current state of Thief, because I wouldn't take it. I would literally alt-tab. Because it's not fun. I watch these poor people. The best thing is that Twitch chat flames them. They're like, he's getting decapped. And if he's not getting decapped, look at this Eve King scrub. But there's no option. He's invisible. Like, you can't see him. And it's not fun to play versus. I think that stealth should be attached to something that dies very easily, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that if you're going to have something with like a ton of dodges and a ton of... staying power, then that thing needs to not have stealth. Like, simple as that. So the current iteration of Thief, with the amount of stealth it has right now, that thing should be complete paper. And it's not. Because if I stun it, then it has a stun break. And then it has a stealth. It has a stealth while it's stunned. It has a port while it's stunned. Like, it has so many tools to get away, where if you're playing Thief as a top player, and you're actively playing not to die, you're not looking to take any risks, you just want to make a point, I'm never going to die this game, you're not going to die, because you have enough tools to make sure that you're never in trouble. So I think Shadow Arts is a perfect example of something that simply, it's just bad for the game, get rid of it. Thief is still going to be strong, and if it's not, then it shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. That's how I look at it, because it's like, nobody can actively say that they're having fun when they're dealing with Thief, doing their Thief stuff.
And it's what we were talking about earlier. You were bringing up the fact that it's really hard for a duelist in a way to make a big impact on a fight a lot of the time. And I think a lot of that is what you just mentioned there, right? If there's a Thief kind of stealthing around, like, it's really hard for you to be where you need to be by the time where you know where the thief is, right? Because you really don't want to give up that decap, right? Like whatsoever. But at the same time, if you don't, the thief can just go back in the fight and is really impactful in the fights too. Like thief has a serious punch and can really punish people. But then, oh wait, hang on, you've basically just allowed your team to get 5v4'd and the fight's going to collapse before you get there. So it's really hard for, even if you did have a side node build that was relatively impactful in the team fight, a lot of the traditional duelists, stuff like Ranger, Warrior, and Weaver, like they're already not super crazy in the team fight. They can provide value, but not quite as much as, well, just throwing another core knacker on there right now, which is what you typically do these days. Even if you were super value, you're going to be late and the thief is just going to outmaneuver you, and it's really hard to play around that because of that really high stealth uptime and the ability the thief has just to mind game you, right? And then, hey, you know what? And just punish you for that.
No, I fully agree. I think Shadow Arts is the fundamental issue there because of you're not supposed to be able to survive in that big fight. Back in the day, if the thief rotated into the big fight in a huge 4v4 with AoEs and big fighter classes, they could not do much. They had to try to stealth someone who was a bit outside of the fight. They didn't have that survival stuff. They're not supposed to have it. They cannot force a big duelist spec that sucks in teamfight to be absolutely useless because they're both faster, they cannot die, and they have they can even fight. Like, they can take a little fight with the Warrior and the Ranger. They can fight for a while now. And even if they maybe shouldn't win in this specific duel, they can actually hold the cap for a little bit. And using this new little blind field, or whatever they call it. What is it called? The blind
smoke screen.
Blind screen, exactly.
Yeah,
smoke screen. And this, for example, like Thief being able to do that and actually be on the node a little bit and actually take a fight with duelists, meanwhile being the fastest to move to the mid fight and actually be impactful in that big fight is for sure OP. Now, I know that you can probably play without Thief on maybe 1 or 2 maps in a best case scenario, but other than that, no, we need to cut that. But EOD comes, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because we don't know how things will evolve.
I was about to say just something I remembered when Ron mentioned how it used to be. I remember actually actively, we always used to call the thief shadow step. Like that was a thing you always did. Yeah. Because basically, if the thief was on far and he tried to +1 and then he would shadow step out, whoever was on the side, like if Ron was there, would be like, thief has no shadow step, focus him when he comes to the fight. And he would target the thief. And the second the thief would come to the fight, we would aim to stun him and burst him as soon as possible because he had no stun break. Like that was a normal thing that you would do. So the thief could join the fight and we could give it. But while we did that, thief was still top tier. So the thief actually had to, like, if they came into the fight with no shadow step, they knew they came to the fight with no shadow step. So they would come in with bow. The first thing they would do is like short bow 3 and, play safe. They would stay on their short bow and they would cluster and basically just in and out. Now the thieves will just YOLO into the fight, stand in the middle of the node, put a smoke screen, and then like dodge 17 times. I have one dodge, and he's dodging 17 times. How fair is that? It's not fair.
No, I agree.
But I think like the role of thief is fine, but it needs to be ultra aggressive, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's built so Twitch chat can survive, and that's not okay.
No, it's hard to be a side holder today. Let me tell you, it's very hard. Also in the Prot Hollow day. Okay, maybe it wasn't so hard to tank, but it's hard to know what to do. Should you move the fight? Should you just AFK on your node? It's hard.
It is indeed. And I think that kind of wraps up a lot of the topics that I wanted to discuss today, actually. Do you think there's anything that was missed here? I might talk a little bit about maybe some competitive events that we might want to try and set up there, and kind of like some of the community plans that, I think might be worth discussing, like things we could try and attempt there. But do you think there's anything else that we've kind of missed over here that about the state of PvP, the future of PvP, all that kind of stuff, before we kind of move on to wrapping things up a little bit? I guess not. Looking pretty good. Okay, so in that case, the kind of final topic I would talk about, just for a little here, a little self-interest, bit of a discussion here. Obviously, I want to run a lot of events, right? And the thing, what I find with competitive tournaments and events is that players are a little daunted because they're like, oh, you know, we're going to end up playing against all the really, really good people, right? And like, oh no, we're going to get smashed. And I want to move things to like creating multiple events for different skill levels as well. And also rewarding these players very, very heavily. And I tried to do this a little bit with this idea of the open bracket and the invitational bracket, but it's not quite good enough. And I think focusing on event accessibility and community event accessibility is really important, because this is another thing that is, again, you can't fix it in the game. Because in my opinion, ideally, you would have automated tournaments for different skill levels. You actually have this in StarCraft 2, funnily enough, that there's like, different leagues. There's like a skill range for these different kind of automated tournaments with a bracket system. They're very like Guild Wars 2, actually, obviously, with 1v1 that you see pop up there. But obviously the population isn't there. If you say, oh yeah, we're going to do a Plat tournament and a Legend tournament, well, you're not really going to have teams for that, unfortunately, in the current state. So I think that we need to implement that ourselves, right? I think we need to have PvP tournaments that are for relatively new players, people who are Plat 1 and below, have a special tournament for the kind of like the middle ground teams and then the top teams as well, and make sure that it's really exciting and accessible for all of those players. I don't really know where I'm going with that. I'm just like, that's my idea. That's my pitch. Am I right? What do you guys think?
I think you're partly. I think we need one mid-tier level. But how would you grade it? How can you enter that type of AT?
Well, there are a few. The idea where I was going to go is that you would have signups and you would use the API key with the game, and that will determine your rating, right? And again, I won't say how, but I have some pretty interesting tricks on how to see if people are Smurfs or not. I'm actually not very worried about Smurfs. I know people are going to say, oh yeah, we're going to Smurf. Oh yeah, we're going to do it. It's harder than you think. I did something similar with raids, actually. And again, I won't say how because people will figure it out, right? But I did a bit of trickery, and I was very certain that no one was Smurfing. Actually, I'd say like 99%. I was pretty sure that no one was cheating, playing on like an alt account or something like that. So I think there are ways around it, actually. So again, I would just use the API to kind of get newer players in and have a separate space. And again, I think stuff like the title, right, like Community Conqueror, I think that's really exciting. If you're kind of fresh to PvP, and I think really leveraging that accessibility, like signing up through Discord, right, instead of having to go to Battlefy, just have like, oh, paste your API key here, boom, you're signed up, right, easy, done, like boom, immediately. And I just think that's something that I'm really going to try and lean into a lot, specifically around Ender Dragons and the Steam release. Like those are the two like key things that I want to focus on in terms of tournaments, to really try and get to get the improvement mindset. I think that this goes into what we were talking about earlier with reward structures and rating being worth something, winning being worth something. I think that we need to make it worth to put that effort in to get better at the game. Because right now, the monthly AT is honestly really good. There were some great games in the tournament yesterday on EU, and I watched NA after the stream, and there were some good games there. But the problem is that it's a very, very tough ask to say a player who has just reached platinum, right? Oh, we're platinum 1, platinum 2, and say, yeah, if you want to win that monthly AT, the only thing that is essentially special is for first place, right? So anything else below first place is you get nothing, essentially. And by the way, in order to get as good as the people who are currently winning it, you're going to have to like grind for 6 months, maybe even more than that, right, to get even close to winning. It's a very, very hard sell, tough value proposition. So I think the way to fix that is essentially by using community events. I think the other thing you could do is add titles for like first, second, and third. I think that's much more in reach than winning the monthly. Maybe change daily automated tournaments. Maybe there's a title, right, for like winning 10 of them or something like that, right? Or winning like 25 tournaments, you get a title for that. That will be like again, daily automated tournament is much more in reach. But I think there need to be more kind of rungs on the ladder and more milestones for players to achieve while they're improving through the game. Because right now, in my opinion, it is all or nothing, right? Either you are a complete scrub and you're nobody, or you're going to be best of the best with a cool hat, right? Like there's no real okay, I'm getting pretty good now, and I've got this thing, right? I've got this to show for it. It's like, no, you win or you're complete trash, complete loser.
I think literally just having this meeting as well with the players. I keep reiterating that because I think it can do a lot for the game. I think if the mentality of the game just shifts a little bit in the community, which I think is very possible. I think it's literally just a conversation away. I could be wrong, but then I think not only these events, but also AETs and such can have a completely different context. For instance, Boyce isn't nameless, right? Because he's streaming consistently, and Degas and Frey, the previous world champions, and all that stuff. But I remember when Sind was actually streaming his monthlies and such, and there was like a different, like people got excited for just being in the game, right? Because they got to play versus him and all that stuff. And it's not the same now. It's kind of toxic when you get to play versus them. I think in general, if everyone just decides to get excited about PvP, along with your community events and along with everyone believing that PvP can reach something, then I think it's going to be way easier to sell that. Okay, you're going to have to play these X amount of monthlies and lose them in order to improve. And then you're going to have to look at what you did wrong and improve from there. But if people believe that the game is going somewhere, I don't think that's such a tough sell. But it's different when people think that there's nothing for them to aim for, which I think a lot of people do right now. I think a lot of people that are like I can mention a bunch of really genuinely good players right now that aren't playing because they don't they solo queue and such, but they don't go for the 80s and such because they don't really see the point of it. But if everyone was excited, if everyone was looking for players and such, like theoretically, I could have enough time to do an 80 every now and then, right? So theoretically, if I was excited and wanted the game, this, I could theoretically set up a roster and play an 80, right? So I feel like in general, if the mentality just shifts, you're going to see it's going to be way easier to sell the idea of practice to people. But until the whole doomer mentality goes away, or until back in the days, in order to practice, we didn't have custom arenas. We didn't have any custom arenas. So the way we practiced is we would go into a TeamSpeak server with a bunch of people, and we would queue up for the 5v5 ladder at the same time as other people, because we couldn't sync with them, right? There was no 80. So we would go in a TeamSpeak and we would be a bunch of people. We'd be like 20 people on a TeamSpeak, and we would go 3, 2, 1, queue. And then someone didn't get in the queue. And everyone was like, we're going to get a bunch of fun games. And someone is like, okay, I'm going to fight a bunch of solo queuers. But people still did that because they were motivated and they believed in what was to come. I'm not saying that I'm particularly in the situation where, we're going to do this. But what I'm saying is that if the community, if the active PvP population that generally plays a lot and participate in the game, if they don't think the game is going to grow and are on board with you, with your events and such, then it's gonna be hard. I mean, you've done more than I thought you would, but I think in the end, it's going to be 100 times easier for you if you literally just get other people on board. Like all you need to do is get Avancine here in Twitch chat to actually help. It's all on him.
Yeah, you've heard it there. You guys have got to get on it. You got to stop slacking. Get off the doomer, get on the copium with us, right? That's what you got to do. Let's go. Let's get the hope.
And all the players here probably, and even all the viewers here, probably play PvP, right? At least to an extent. And this is the best mechanical game on the market in terms of the MMO style. In my opinion, Guild Wars 2's freedom feeling and game is the sole reason why I personally come back to the game. Of course, it's in my heart and whatnot, but I used to love MOBAs too, but Guild Wars has a special feeling, and that's why all of you in this chat, no matter how negative you are, you still linger on in here. You're still here, and if you're anyway in this game, you might as well try to participate or try to buff it a little bit, because we need it. Let's make this the next Super Smash Brothers, completely carried by the community. And as Helseth said, it's most likely the outcome. We cannot expect the government, which is ArenaNet in this case, to carry us with government checks and give us a bunch of investment funds. They're not gonna do it. We gotta view it like that at least. And if they do, it's a plus. So we have to get together. We have to, and in my opinion, we should start this PvP meeting, and everyone can join, and maybe we can do it once a week. Just get Teapot you to say that this is the time, and we can join in, and we can have some questionnaire thing that people can write, and maybe everyone can't spam talk to each other, right? So you ask if you can talk, and that's it. But yeah, something like that. I thought I got a little backtrack from the days of TeamSpeak server. A little doggy. I wanted to see the real dog there, Helseth. But I remember the days of TeamSpeak. Desolation TeamSpeak. This was for the server of Desolation, but we had literally all Heart of the Mist people only used Desolation TeamSpeak to communicate. And I remember you could just join a group or a free room and ask the guys like, what are you up to? Are you playing PvP? And they explain what they're doing and such. And I feel that we kind of have lost that since we went to Discord, all of us. And how do we centralize like voice communications with Guild Wars? And I know that we should have done it with like a Hardstuck Discord or with some other one. I don't really care. I just want it to be centralized, right? How do we do that? How do we engage all people not to sit in their solo rooms speaking in a private call? How do we make them enter a big community when they voice chat?
I think it's just been a bit of a cultural shift in Guild Wars in general.
Yeah.
I think the game has changed a lot. I think that a lot of these Discords, these TeamSpeak servers and communities died because I think the game in general shifted to a lot more solo play, right? I don't think people are quite as social anymore in Guild Wars 2. And yeah, we obviously want to try and bring that back. And you're absolutely right. That's why we have infinite voice channels in Hardstuck, right? If you join a voice channel, we'll just make a new one. You have as many as you want. And I would really like to see that kind of get back there. People would make an LFG group for a tournament or just duo queue with some random person that they met in Heart of the Mist, right? And they would just hop on voice. So that is the kind of culture I think that really leads a game mode to thrive is those interpersonal relationships, like people getting to know each other and making friends and interacting with other people. That's like the bedrock of a successful scene, a growing life, like, a lively scene.
Yeah, sure. That's what I love.
Should push that, yeah.
Yeah, I used to love that as a 22, 23-year-old gamer. I went around, I was even single in the beginning, even more hungry for social interaction. No, but you get my point. It's really a culture that makes you driven, a more open culture. What are we stuck with all the basement dwellers now? Speaking of this basement here, man, are we just incels and basement dwellers left in this game? Come on, guys, let's fucking do this.
What I know, and I've got to say, it is refreshing to actually talk to you guys because I've been trying to yell at people, say, "Come on, we can do it. We don't have to rely on ArenaNet for a long time." I've been trying to convince people to do this. It's refreshing to actually have people who agree with me, for once, as opposed to having to battle people. It's blood from a stone with this lazy Guild Wars 2 community, I've got to say. So that's good. There you go. Now that it wasn't me saying it, you all have to agree with it. Whenever I say something, they're like, "Oh, wow, Teapot, idiot." Helseth says it's like, wow, Helseth, what a giant, huge brain gamer over there. So I love to see that, right? Look, now I'm confirmed to be right the entire time. So I win. And I think that is just about it, actually. I think we're going to wrap up the show about here. Finally managed to get TeaTime back down to where it belongs at around a 2 hour, not like 3 or 4 hours. That's where it gets really out of control. But yes, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a fantastic show. It was an incredibly good conversation, in my opinion. I think we've even got some actionable things that we can go after here, which I will certainly try and pursue. Some really good ideas and conversation here for sure. So all that remains for me to say is to, of course, give you the final word if you want to talk about your Twitch stream, like what you're going to be doing with Guild Wars 2 or, whatever, like with Twitch, Twitter, whatever YouTube content that you might be making. So I guess, let's go first here. Helseth, final words and, shill whatever you want to shill.
There used to be a time whenever I was on a podcast or something, like all I had to say was, they already know. What I'm going to say this time is Twitch TV, The Lord Helseth. I am bleeding viewers. I'm a starving channel, barely hitting something like 250 viewers while we're looking at 800 people here. Listen, chat. I need you in my life, all right? No joke. Now, if you want a streamer that streams once a month, tilts for half of it, and likely streams for less than an hour, who will smack talk you guys and call you bad, and most likely just not be Twitch TV, the Lord Helseth, literally all you could possibly need. So go ahead and give that a follow. Give that just go ahead and chill. But on a serious note, I play Mesmer better than all you guys combined, so it might be fun to watch. Go ahead and tune in if you feel like it at some point. And if not, well, pretend I never asked. So, I mean, yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for having me on, Teapot. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Rom.
Yeah, maybe me there. Okay, yeah, I'm Ramshot, and you probably know. You can join my Twitch. I do some content. I actually stream pretty week daily, not on weekends, but weekly, 4 hours a day. If something doesn't happen to my baby and I have but join in for some Soul Beast Ranger gameplays or join the events. But I also uploaded the events on Hardstuck, so just join Hardstuck and you will probably see those. Master Duelist is my events, and most likely you will see some nice movies coming for EOD release. Yeah, more of the fun, more of something unique.
Exciting.
Yeah, and I hope that me and Teapot can pop something as well.
Oh yeah.
For the EOD stuff. I will have a few more months of this daily thing, so yeah, tune in, say hello.
All right, and yes, like I said, of course, you'll find links to that below the stream on the YouTube video and in the chat right now, thanks to the magic of the bot. So yeah, once again, thank you guys very much for hopping on board. Of course, I've got to chill a little bit myself. If you enjoyed this tea time, there's a whole bunch of them. You can go watch them on my YouTube. You can follow this stream for more. I try and get this show going a little bit more regularly these days with a wide variety of various interesting topics. Okay, we can be depressed about the game. We can be joyous about the game when something happens. And I don't know, we can even make fun of ourselves and, of course, the game a little bit occasionally when we see fit to do that. But, of course, follow my stream, subscribe to my YouTube, follow my social media. That's all linked there as well. And, of course, make sure to check out Helseth and Rom as well for all the exciting things they are indeed doing. So once again, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to my wonderful guests for joining me here today and talking about the game mode that we all love, which is, of course, structured PvP in Guild Wars 2. That's it for now, guys. Thank you so much. I'll continue streaming after in just a moment. I'm just going to quickly take a break, and then we will resume with a little bit of an after show, a little bit of a post-discussion sort of thing there as well. But that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.